The MLB season is almost here, and that means that the offseason is almost over. So I'm going to talk about the 8 biggest winners of the 2026 offseason to this point. There are still some players out there like Cody Bellinger and Framber Valdez, but I don't feel like waiting anymore, so I'm going to talk about who has won the offseason in my opinion. You, the viewer, are probably not going to agree with all of my picks, but this is how I analyze baseball, and it's basically, do I think that these teams did what I think they should have done this offseason? If yes, they're winners. If no, they're not. So let's get into the video and let's talk about it. If you missed my losers video, it was from 2 or 3 days ago, go check it out. If not, enjoy this one. Let's start out with a team that I'm a little bit on the fence about, and that's the Baltimore Orioles. I think they've had a really solid offseason, and I think solid offseasons are enough for them to be called winners, because not very many teams have had good offseasons in my opinion. These 8 teams, I really kind of had to squeak together 8 teams to call them winners. But I think the Orioles are one of the safer teams in this, but maybe you disagree. So they've brought in Pete Alonso, which of course is their biggest get this offseason. They also traded for Shane Baz, although they gave up a ton of prospects and definitely overpaid for him, but whatever. They brought back Zach Eflin as well to make sure the rotation is somewhat serviceable. Getting Kyle Bradish back from injury is their biggest deal that they've gotten this offseason in my opinion, but that doesn't count. I just wanted to mention it. They also brought in Ryan Helsley and Andrew Kittredge to hopefully shore up the back end of the bullpen with Yennier Cano and if Felix Bautista is coming back at some point this year. Either way, they also traded for Taylor Ward, who hit over 40 home runs last year. So this is a pretty big addition offseason in my opinion. The only guys that they're losing are Gary Sanchez, Jorge Mateo, Tomoyuki Sugano, and Grayson Rodriguez. And I really don't like that they gave up on Grayson Rodriguez because he's really good in my opinion. He just hasn't been healthy. With that being said, I still think this is a very above average offseason and it makes them winners. The thing that puts me on the fence about this Orioles offseason is I really wish that they had gone out and got a true ace. I'm hoping for their sake that they still land Framber Valdez, although that really feels like they would be giving a lot more money than they're usually willing to, but maybe they can surprise me. And if they do sign Framber Valdez, they're probably the second biggest winner on the entire list. So I hope that they go out and do that. Why not? Just go out and get your ace that you've been lacking for years. Moving over to the first team that I think people are going to disagree a little bit with, I'm talking about the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox, my expectations were low, like they've been for multiple off seasons. But they've added some fun players. Anthony Kay is coming over from overseas, and he had a really good season last year. Sean Newcomb was really good with the Athletics out of the bullpen, so I like that signing a lot. Jared Kelenic is obviously a wild card player here. He's a lottery ticket guy. He has all the talent in the world, but he hasn't been able to put it together. I like a bad team like the White Sox signing a guy like that. And of course, their big addition of the offseason, Munetaka Murakami. I love that signing, especially at the price, 2 years, $34 million, an absolute steal for Murakami in my opinion. If he's anything close to what he could be at his peak, then that's one of the best signings ever. So for the Chicago White Sox to make a signing like that, and really just try to get a superstar player, I really like that. The players that they lost don't really matter. Cam Boozer, Martin Perez, Mike Tauchman, Michael A. Taylor. There's really no big loss there. I think the pieces that are coming in are way better than the pieces coming out. I do wish that they would trade Luis Robert for somebody else. Well, I guess the rest of that segment is cut off because Luis Robert just got traded to the New York Mets for Luis Angel Acuna, as well as Truman Pauly. But Luis Angel Acuna is a really good prospect, and I really like that return. Another lottery ticket wild card player, but Luis Angel Acuna is pretty good in my opinion, so I think this makes a lot of sense for the White Sox. They've really improved their roster this offseason, I think, and they've done a very good job. They are now major winners. Another team that people are going to disagree with me, in my opinion, and that's okay, is the Los Angeles Angels. I like the Angels offseason a lot, and you probably aren't going to, because about a month ago I made a video called The Worst Situations Heading into 2026, and I did not put the Angels on it. I got so many comments from people saying, why are the Angels not on this video? For me, I like the Angels situation heading into 2026. I think they have a really good offense. I think their bullpen is majorly improved this offseason, and I think their rotation is improved as well. And I'm going to get into the additions now. So they brought in Grayson Rodriguez in that trade with the Orioles for Taylor Ward, and I love that move for them. They also brought in Josh Lowe from the Tampa Bay Rays, who I think can be really good. In 2023, he was incredible before dealing with injuries each of the last 2 years. They brought in some lottery ticket relievers like Kirby Yates and Jordan Romano, and then they brought in a pretty guaranteed reliever in Drew Pomerantz, who was incredible with the Cubs last year. They also brought in a lottery ticket starter with Alek Manoah and a lottery ticket second baseman with Vaughn Grissom. I think that this is a really solid offseason with not anything that's guaranteed, so this could backfire. But again, a team like the Angels, it's hard for them to attract talent. They really need to try to find creative ways to win, and I think the Grayson Rodriguez and Josh Lowe trades were really creative ways to improve a roster. They are losing a lot of guys: Tyler Anderson, Andrew Chafin, Yohan Moncada, Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward, Kenley Jansen, Brock Burke. Yes, they did lose a lot, but you know what? I don't know how much value they're really losing. Obviously, Tyler Anderson, Moncada, Rengifo, Ward, those guys are all pretty good, and then Kenley Jansen and Brock Burke as well. But I like their offseason. You might not agree with me, and that's honestly fine, but in my opinion, I like what they did. That's just me though. This is the first team on the list that didn't do much really to improve their roster, but I think improved it in extremely intelligent ways, and that makes them a winner in my eyes. That's the Atlanta Braves. I think their addition of adding Robert Suarez to their bullpen is exactly what this team needed. They also brought back Raisel Iglesias, and normally I don't talk about that as additions, but he's so good that it is such a big addition because he was maybe going to get traded at the deadline. They didn't trade him, and then they brought him back. So that's really, really good business in my opinion. They also brought in Mike Yastrzemski, which is a good signing. They also re-signed Tyler Kinley and Ian Hamilton, as well as trading for Mauricio Dubon. They are losing Marcell Ozuna, Pierce Johnson, who was pretty good for them, and Nick Allen, but I don't know, those aren't the biggest losses of all time. I think Robert Suarez is a bigger piece than realistically any of the 3 losses combined are. That might be disrespecting Marcell Ozuna's talents, maybe, but I don't know. I really feel like they needed another back-end reliever, and they got one of the best on the market, and I really like that. This Braves team, I think I'm going to make a video about because I think they might be the best team in baseball other than the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I don't think people are giving them credit for that. I think I'm going to do a whole deep dive into their team because it's just a very good team that is underrated, and I think they had a good offseason as well. I'm putting them in the winner category. Now, this is a team that people are going to disagree with, and that's fine. I know, I've said that 3 teams in a row, but maybe even 4 teams in a row, but the Miami Marlins are winners this offseason. I know they traded away Edward Cabrera and Ryan Weathers and Dane Myers, and those are all solid to good players. I know that, I get it. But I have been bashing the Twins for 2 straight years on not picking a lane. They don't trade away guys like Joe Ryan or Pablo Lopez, and then they live in constant mediocrity. I hate that. I think that's the worst thing you can do as a baseball team. The Miami Marlins committing to a retool by trading some of their better players away for big prospect capital is a winning offseason in my opinion. When bad or teams that are close to being good start retooling to be better in the future, I think that is a successful offseason. I really do. You don't need to go all out and try to win every single season because you're not going to. But if you really reset in the seasons that you're not going to win, I think that is the best way to build a baseball team, and I'm proud of the Marlins for doing that. Sure, they've done it in the past and it hasn't worked, like when they traded Yelich and Stanton and Ozuna and Realmuto and every other player that's ever been a Miami Marlin, but this isn't that. They brought in a guy like Owen Casey, who's very, very good. He came over as the headliner in the Edward Cabrera trade, and they also made a few signings that I also liked as well. Pete Fairbanks is immediately their best reliever in their bullpen, and maybe you can even flip him at the deadline for more prospects if you are not competitive. And Christopher Morel has shown flashes of being really, really good, and the Miami Marlins offense is already pretty good, so Christopher Morel can be one of those forgotten people in the lineup. I really like their offseason. I love when teams load up on prospects. That's just how I look at baseball. Again, people are going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine. I understand if you think trading away MLB talent is a bad offseason, but personally, for a team like Miami, I don't think it is, because they're not going to extend Edward Cabrera, they're not going to extend Dane Myers, they're not going to extend Ryan Weathers, so why not trade them when they're at the peak of their value like they are right now? I think it's good business. It's what Tampa Bay does all the time. 3 teams left, and we're going to probably my second biggest winner of the entire offseason, although they lost a lot of guys as well, and that's the Chicago Cubs. Now, before I talk about the players that came in, I'm going to talk about the players that went out, because I think it's really important to address that. Kyle Tucker is gone. Brad Keller, Drew Pomerantz, Andrew Kittredge, Taylor Rogers, Ryan Brazier. That is 5 good relievers that are all out, and Brad Keller and Drew Pomerantz were both incredible for the Cubs last year. They're also losing a few veterans like Justin Turner and Willie Castro, but those are not huge impact players. However, they have brought in Alex Bregman, Edward Cabrera right at the start. They also re-signed Shota Imanaga, but again, that doesn't really count. Alex Bregman and Edward Cabrera is a great start to the offseason. They also brought in Hunter Harvey, Phil Maton, Caleb Thielbar, Holby Milner, and Tyler Austin from overseas. So they might have lost 5 relievers, but they brought in 4 pretty good relievers. I think that they've gotten worse in the bullpen, but I think the addition of Edward Cabrera, as well as replacing Kyle Tucker with Alex Bregman, makes them a better team overall. I really like their offseason. I do wish that they would have gotten one of the more proven and better relief pitchers, I would say. Like, if they had gotten a Robert Suarez, I know that that's a lot more expensive, but if they had done that, I think they would have really been in an incredible spot. I think they're in a good spot, but I think that they definitely are one of the winners of the offseason, if not the second biggest, like I mentioned. Okay, the ultimate winner of the offseason is the back-to-back World Series champion, Los Angeles Dodgers. They've only made 3 real additions in Kyle Tucker, Edwin Díaz, and Andy Ibanez, but you know what? That's all they needed. They know what they needed, and they went out and got it. And that is extremely scary. They know that their bullpen was bad last year, so they signed the best closer in the league. They knew that their left-handed outfielders were bad last year, so they replaced Michael Conforto with Kyle Tucker. Man, the Los Angeles Dodgers are just incredible at making super teams. They really are. They're losing guys like Clayton Kershaw, Michael Conforto, like I just mentioned, Tony Gonsolin, Enrique Hernandez, but he'll probably be re-signed at some point, I would imagine. Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, Kirby Yates. I mean, like, they're losing names, but it doesn't matter when you're bringing in Kyle Tucker and Edwin Díaz. This team is so unbeatable on paper. It might lose because it's baseball, and baseball is a weird sport, but on paper, this team is one of the better teams ever, and they got a lot better this offseason, in my opinion. They knew what they needed, they went out, they got what they needed. They're massive, massive winners. They didn't need to sign 5 players, they didn't need to sign 6 players, they needed to sign 2 players, and they signed both of them. The final team, let's talk about them, because I've talked about the Dodgers enough recently. The final team might be a little bit of a pity party for an organization that doesn't do anything, but you know what? I like the Pittsburgh Pirates offseason, so I'll say that they're winners. They normally don't do anything, so the fact that they've brought in Brandon Lowe, Ryan O'Hearn for the first multi-year contract since 2016, Gregory Soto, Jake Mangum, who is an absolute pest of a baseball player, Mason Montgomery, and the password, Mr. Garcia. I still don't know how to say his first name, even though he was in the Red Sox organization for like 2 years, whatever. The password from the Red Sox. That's a good offseason. Those are some pretty big additions. They needed offense and they got Brandon Lowe and Ryan O'Hearn. That's pretty good. They needed some defense and they got Jake Mangum, who is really good defensively. They got a few hard-throwing relievers with Mason Montgomery and Gregory Soto. I like it. They haven't re-signed Andrew McCutchen yet, which feels like a massive miss because it's clear that he wants to be back. He was even hinting at it on Twitter. Tommy Pham is also out the door, which Tommy Pham's a bit of a crazy person, so that's not really a bad thing, even though he's good. Johan Oviedo was traded for the password, and I like Oviedo a lot, so I don't love that move. They also traded away Mike Burrows, but that was part of the Brandon Lowe trade, and you have to give up talent to get talent, and starting pitching is their strength, so I like that move. And then Colin Holderman out of the bullpen, Mason Montgomery and Gregory Soto replace him for sure. So overall, I think the Pirates have done a good job of bringing in significantly more talent than they've lost, and they haven't done that in a long time, it feels like. So for them, I'm going to give this a winning offseason. They're almost potentially contenders. Not like World Series contenders, but they could be the second best team in the NL Central if things go wrong for the Brewers. They've had a much better offseason than them, with the Pirates' really good starting rotation, and now their offense is looking okay. Like, it's not bad. It's really not. With Brandon Lowe, Ryan O'Hearn, Brian Reynolds, and then you have guys like O'Neal Cruz still. You still have Spencer Horwitz. You still have some other guys too. And then if Connor Griffin can come up and be really, really good like they expect he is, because he's the #1 prospect in baseball, I mean, Pirates might be a winning team next year, and I think this offseason helped set it up. So I'm going to give them the winning grade. That's all 8 teams. Let me know what you disagree with in the comment section. Just remember, it's always an opinion. It's always my opinion. This is just what I think. Am I right? No, I can't actually be right. But am I wrong? Also, no, you can't really be wrong either. It's just an opinion. It's what you think. If you think the Dodgers are losers because they lost Clayton Kershaw, I'm gonna say that you're wrong, but nobody can really say that an opinion is wrong. So whatever you think, never be afraid to say your opinion. Just remember that it's important to get your opinion out there. Anyway, not trying to get too deep into it at the end of this video, just hope you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing if you noticed that you aren't yet and you watched until the end. I'm just ready for baseball. I'm so excited to watch baseball once again.